your participation for this Day 3 1-week virtual international workshop on life skills for professional competence. It gives me tremendous contentment to be presenting the welcome speech amongst the most esteemed personalities. The topic of discussion for today's workshop is a dynamic topic, stress management, which can be rightly termed as an investment that helps to improve our knowledge and attitude towards life. Life skill development helps an individual to build one's skills, set goals, work on the approach, believe in their potential, and improve awareness. Through this workshop, an individual is given a platform to identify their vulnerable spots, gain understanding, focus on essential aspects, improve their leadership quality, attitude, and confidence, and provide practical communication skills as well as the frequent changes needed in their lifestyles. Stress is a fact of life. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, you cannot avoid stress. But you can learn to manage it so it doesn't manage you. Today, we have highly learned and intellectual resource person with immeasurable credentials with her to enrich the delegates to how to cope up with stress, and that is none other than our Dr. Shobha Rani Madam. I now take the privilege to introduce our honorable resource person, Dr. Shobha Rani Madam. Dr. Shobha Rani Ma'am is PhD, MSc Psychiatric Nursing, MA Psychology, MA Addiction Studies, Higher Diploma in Nursing Studies, Cert in Nursing in Forensic and Secure Environments, Practice Development Coordinator, National Forensic Mental Health Service, Ireland, and Assistant Professor, School of Nursing and Midwifery, University of Dublin, Trinity College, Ireland. She has work experience of 20 years of nursing in clinical practice, practice development, nursing education, and research. Her research areas interests include forensic mental health, ethnic minority, women's health, and she is involved in national funded research products and also as a PhD guide. She has been external adjudicator for PhD programs in various universities. Her research ethics, she is also a research ethics committee member at University of Dublin, Trinity College. She has published several research articles in indexed international journals and presented papers and posters at various international research and education conferences. She has also been a journal reviewer for different journals, including Journal of Psychiatric and Mental Health Nursing, Journal of Nurse Education in Practice, British Journal of Nursing, and Journal of Forensic Nursing. She has been instrumental in developing curriculum for short-term courses for qualified nurses and multidisciplinary team members in the areas of addiction studies, nursing education and practice, and forensic mental health accredited by the national bodies. Ma'am, we are really amazed with your profile. Your immeasurable accomplishments are really a motivating factor for us to enhance our professional career. On behalf of principal, staff, and students, I deem it as my proud privilege to extend warm welcome to our esteemed resource person, Dr. Shobha Rani Madam. We are very thankful to her for taking the time out of her busy schedule to grace this webinar by imparting her valuable knowledge to all our delegates of this program. We welcome you, ma'am. On behalf of all, I also would like to extend warm welcome to our beloved principal, Professor Jagdamba Madam, an able administrator, a person with bountiful knowledge whose constant support and encouragement is the outcome of this wonderful workshop. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
also take pleasure in welcoming our enthusiastic and proactive MAC coordinator, Professor Radha GR Madam. The successful ongoing of this program is because of a sincere efforts and support. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I also take this as my privilege to welcome a humble person who can make the impossible to possible. It is none other than our Madam Nalinakshi, NSS officer, who has made this program highly beneficial to one and all by getting highly knowledgeable and intellectual personalities as resource person for this program. We welcome you, ma'am. I am also extremely overwhelmed to welcome our intellect, young and energetic Professor Shivashankari VR Madam, technical coordinator, without whom this program would have not been possible. I welcome you, Shankari Madam.
Thank you, ma'am.
I also would like to extend a warm welcome to all the delegates whose participation indicates the success of this program. A warm welcome to one and all. I also take pleasure in welcoming all the departments HOD, Physical Education Director, organizers, teaching and non-teaching staff of GFJC Bididi. I also would like to welcome all our dear students. All these students we witness today will grow up to be the responsible citizens of tomorrow. May they grow up to make us proud and achieve the highest human values. I welcome you all, my dear students. I would like to thank one and all for giving me such an opportunity. I feel proud to be part of such an elite institution with great teachers whose teaching goes beyond the classroom. Also, they are the ones to be thanked for organizing such a wonderful program. Thank you all. Thank you once again. I am giving the opportunity and I am passing on to our Dr. Shobha Rani Madam to take over the presentation.
Okay, a very good morning from Ireland. My name is Shobha Rani, and thank you very much for the introduction. It's indeed a pleasure talking to everyone. And first of all, thank you to the principal, the organizers of this initiative, and Katyayani ma'am especially, that she had contacted me and has been able to give me the opportunity to collaboratively explore the stress management aspects with you all. Hopefully today we'll go through together on certain things in terms of stress management. Indeed, what I find is with the initiative that you have is really, really worth, especially at this time with the pandemic that's going on. Everybody knows what stress is. I don't really have to teach anyone about what stress is, but we'll see how we can cope up with this stress, especially at this time, in more meaningful way. Life skill competence is not new to any of us. As you know, like we learn everything from childhood as life skills. We learn to walk, you learn to ride a bicycle, you learn to do many things. Something like coping is like cooking. Like all of us know to do different types of dishes. If I just take one example of chicken biryani, I know it's almost time for you all for lunch. For me, it's very early in the morning. But if you think about chicken biryani, everybody has their own way of doing it. Similarly, if you think chicken biryani as stress, it is one stress, but each of us have different way of coping with that stress, or each of us have different way of making one dish. So therefore, coping is something that we all learn, and sometimes we need direction from others. Everything is not learned by ourselves on our own. Sometimes we need help. So I hope we can go through some of these elements together and look at some of those aspects that we can adopt in life. First thing I want to say is I'm new to Google Meet. We use mostly Microsoft Teams and Zoom here. So if anything goes wrong, please excuse me. I'm going to share the slides now, and I'll start with the presentation. Any questions can we leave till the end, and then we can have a question and answer session if that's okay. And also, I have sent Cohen's stress appraisal questionnaire. We can go through that questions together, and there is one thing I would say is whenever you're sharing, you don't have to share something that you don't want to share in public. So, whatever you're comfortable, only share in this platform. I hope everyone can see this slide. Let me make this more clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, we can see.
As I said earlier, everyone knows what stress is. So I'm going to straight away jump into the stress appraisal skills. So let's begin and see, do we know how to look at our own stress? Do we know that, what level of stress we are in? So the scale that I sent was Cohen's perceived stress scale, which gives us an understanding of just think about our own stress. So this is just to get you critically think about your stress. The purpose is to enhance self-knowledge and stress appraisal skill capabilities. This is a used, widely used scale, so it is not something special. But at the same time, don't worry, it does not diagnose you as having anxiety or anything else. It's not a diagnostic instrument. I'm sure some of you in psychology department probably have been, using it and are familiar with it. So you will score this subjective, that is, you will score on your own. You don't have to submit this exercise to me or anyone. It's purely for your own learning. So it's proven to be useful tool to more objectively track your stress levels over time. It takes approximately 5 to 10 minutes. So if you have pen and paper ready, we'll just go through 10 questions. And all that it looks for is your 10 questions and your feelings and thoughts during the past month. In each question, you'll be asked how often you felt or thought in a certain way. Although some of the questions are similar, there are small differences between them, and you should treat each one as a separate question. The best thing to do is, whatever comes first thing in your mind, just answer that. Don't think a lot about each question, because each of us will have different way of looking at stress, and you don't have to count how many times you felt that way in 1 month. For each statement, write down if you have had these thoughts or feelings as never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, or very often. And you will see the score in relevant boxes, and you can just, what I would say is, if you don't have the scale in front of you, just take a pen and paper and just write down the score and keep adding it. At the end, we'll look at some of those scores. So going through this questionnaire, the first question, if you're ready with this, we'll go through these questions together. I'm doing it here as well on my own. So in the past month, the first question is, how often you've been upset because of something that happened unexpectedly? So if you can score yourself, you can give a 0 if you never felt upset, or if you can score 1 if you almost never felt upset, 2 if you felt upset, fairly often is 3, and very often is 4. So score yourself in the past month. How often have you been upset because of something what happened unexpectedly? Moving on to the second question. In the past month, how often have you felt unable to control the important things in your life? So think about, anything that you felt unable to control, and how often have you felt. If you think, okay, I've never felt that, score yourself a 0. If you say almost never, 1, sometimes it's 2, fairly often is 3, and very often is 4. There is someone raising the hand. Is there a question there?
Reema, ma'am?
Yes.
Sagarika. Do you have a question, Sagarika, ma'am? Okay, ma'am. Continue, ma'am.
Okay, maybe it's just a mistake. Okay, so the third question, if you move on, some of you may have already done this. So in the past month, how often have you felt nervous or stressed? Again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4 for never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, or very often. The fourth question, in the past month, how often have you felt confident about your ability to handle personal problems? So if you say you felt confident never, then it is 4. You felt never felt confident is 3. Sometimes you felt confident is 2. Fairly often confident is 1. And very often you felt confident, then it is 0. We are almost halfway through the fifth question. In the past month, how often have you felt that things were going your way? You felt that everything is going exactly, fantastically, exactly what you have thought. So if you never felt that way, then 4. If you almost never felt that way, then it is 3. If you sometimes felt the things were going your way, then it is 2. If fairly often is 1 and very often is 0. Sixth question. In the past month, how often have you found that you could not cope with all the things that you had to do? The thing is, you could not cope all the things that you had to do. So again, if it is 0, never is 0, almost never is 1, sometimes it's 2, fairly often is 3, and very often 4. Seventh question. In the past month, how often have you been able to control irritations in your life? So again, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 for never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, very often. The eighth question, there are only 3 more left. In the past month, how often have you felt that you were on top of the things? That is, you're able to do everything. Again, 4, 3, 2, and 2 and 0. Fairly often is 2 here. There is no score 1. Ninth question, in the past month, how often have you been angry because of the things that happened that were outside of your control? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is again never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, and very often. The last question, in the past month, how often have you felt that difficulties were piling up so high that you could not overcome them? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is for never, almost never, sometimes, fairly often, and very often. I know I've taken some time to go through this. That is deliberate because I want you to, look at these questions and answer them so that we begin with knowing exactly where we all stand in terms of stress at this moment. Is that fair enough?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
I'm going to move on just to interpret. Okay, so you have done the scoring now. Add up all the score and have a total of your score. If your score is between 0 to 13, then you are considered as having low perceived stress. If your score is between 14 to 26, then you have moderately perceived stress. If your score is from 27 to 40, there is high perceived stress. Does anyone want to share any thoughts about their score?
I've got my score as 10, ma'am.
Oh, very good. That's fantastic. You have very low perceived stress. That's fantastic. Anyone else?
Mine is 24,
You're still
madam.
counting.
20, madam. 14 to 26.
Okay, so moderately perceived stress. It
Yes, ma'am.
doesn't mean anything in terms of diagnosing. We are not diagnosing here. It is just for you to know that what level of stress you are in at this moment. I did my scoring yesterday, and my scoring was 13, and it was low perceived stress yesterday. I scored today, and it was 20. And because I'm doing this online, I think my stress level has gone up, isn't it? So there
Okay.
is that situational thing that actually makes you perceive more stress. So the stress, this is only for our self-awareness. Like I'm aware that, okay, I'm now moderately stressed. I just need to, relax. I just need to take few deep breaths so that I can cope up with this, much better. And I see there, I think I can see the name as Radha, and I can see her smiling face, and that's giving me hope and feeling that, okay, I'm doing well. So therefore, this is just for our awareness. So what does it mean? Like when we have done all this now, we have done the exercise, you know what level of stress you are in at the moment. What does this mean to all of us? So when we talk about stress, it is basically our mental, physical, emotional, and behavioral reaction to any perceived demands or threats. Stress is there in everyone's life. It's not going to go away. Anything you think of is stressful. Getting up in the morning is stressful. You don't want to get up. If you're taking a bus, if you miss the bus, that is stressful. If you miss anything, that is, it is stressful. So it is all about how we react to it, and our body and our emotions and behaviors react based on what type of stress that we are facing. So therefore, stress can be actual stress or perceived stress. When we say actual stress, there's a threat. Like things like there'll be big life changes. Things I can say, someone is sudden loss. I can give an example. This just happened last week. I was actually preparing for this session. All I did was in the same place I sat and started preparing, and I get a phone call saying that one of our colleagues had passed away. So that is a big change, and that was so stressful. For 3 days, I could not come back to this presentation to, prepare for this presentation. So big changes, big life changes can be very, very stressful. A lack of control over important things, like a diagnosis of, suddenly somebody tells me I have diabetes. I like sweets, and you're telling me that I have diabetes. So there is now lack of control over important things for me. So then too much work. And you all know, you all are teachers. I'm very sure you know what is too much work. I don't have to tell you. And too much work, and sometimes not having enough work also can be stressful. So, but these are reality. So whenever there is reality and you're stressed because of reality, that's the actual stress. So these are the stress that we can probably have to deal with immediately because they are actual stress. Then there are perceived stress, which is different. It is more about our feelings about the lack of control. Like we feel, even though you are in control, but you still feel, oh my God, I haven't done this. Oh my God, I need to complete this task today. So you feel there is a lack of control and unpredictability than the actual stressors. So if you find your thoughts spiraling into what could happen and decide different things, awful things are inevitable, that's the meaning of perceived stress. That is, we perceive something as stress, even though it doesn't exist. You don't see it happening. Thinking of, like, today I'm actually supposed to do a recruitment day in our service. This morning I got up and looked outside. It is raining heavily. First thing came to my head was, how am I going to deal with bringing people around the service and showing them different posters, etc. So that was the first thing came to my mind, because there is that perceived stress. So I'm already stressed out, thinking, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this situation? So with Cohen's tool, we have seen what level of stress we are in, and we know whether that is actual or perceived stress. So moving on to see, what happens when we perceive stress. You all know, when you're stressed, you feel, headache, tension, there is, pain, fatigue. You just feel that you can't do anything. You just feel there is so much of lack of energy. When you're stressed, we usually say we have to use the toilet very often. There could be digestive issues, stomach problems, anxiety, irritability, anger. Very often we have a problem with focusing and motivation. Depression can be one of the aspects that can come with stress. Eating disorders, you may have heard about anorexia, where people don't eat much, or there is, other thing, the bulimia, where we eat a lot. Substance abuse, very, very commonly seen, especially with the emergence of COVID, that people have started using more of alcohol and other substances to deal with stress. Sleep disorders, very common. When you're stressed, you can't sleep, or sometimes people sleep a lot. Some of these are direct effects of stress, and some are unhealthy coping mechanism. But at the same time, it's important that we are aware of stress and try to keep it under control. So coming to the main point here, like, you all are teachers. So can you list 2 or 3 stressors that you face at your workplace? Please take a pen and paper and write down 2 or 3 stressors that you face at your workplace. All right. Does anyone want to share what are the stressors? You don't have to name yourself, or you don't have to tell where you're working, but just tell what stress have you written down.
Multitasking, ma'am.
Definitely multitasking. Yes, it is very good. Yes. Anyone else?
Change in syllabus, ma'am. Change in the subject matter. Syllabus.
Yes, especially I think with COVID, we all have seen that how the way we teach and learn has changed. Yes,
Network issues these days.
I
Network
missed that.
issues. Network
Issues.
issues.
Network issues, definitely. Yes, technological problems. Yes. Anything else?
Conducting online classes for rural students also is really stressful.
I can understand that, definitely, with the network issues and having no phones or no equipment for all the online classes. Yes, in the rural area, it can be very difficult.
The problem
Anyone
of
else?
whether we are really being heard by the students or not, that they are listening to us. How we are
Infrastructural
to each
bottlenecks,
other.
madam.
Sorry, Pawan, I missed it.
Infra bottlenecks.
He says infrastructure.
Infrastructure, yes, infrastructure, definitely, yes. Okay, so there is lots of stressors, isn't it? I can see that I have asked for workplace, so you're focusing on workplace, which is very good. If I'd asked you randomly any stress, Rosalind, you have something to add?
Yeah, ma. Reach
Yes.
to college at the correct time.
Reaching to college at the correct time, she meant.
Okay. Okay. Reaching the college at the correct time. Okay. Yes, it can be stressful. Yes. That's why I said we have focused only at your workplace. But if I'd asked you any stressors, you had to come with more than that, not just 1 or 2. So let's see what is considered as the top 10 stressors for teachers. So this is a study conducted by the Teaching and Learning International Survey in 2018, and they did a large-scale study on survey of teachers, which was conducted in 48 countries. Unfortunately, India was not one of the countries included in it. I think it's most of the European countries and Western countries that were included. But there were 10 top 10 stressors they have identified, and they are as follows. Some of you have already mentioned the stressors, and you can probably identify where they all fit in. So just to go one by one, the 10th top 10 stressor is having extra duties due to absent teachers. I'm sure all of you are so much familiar with, if a teacher is now absent, you have to fill in for them. and how stressful it is to having to prepare for two classes, one after one. It's not easy. One of the things that came up in our study, like we did a study on I actually did a training program on group facilitation skills training, and we had part of it had asked participants to demonstrate a part of the lesson. And when they were demonstrating, we did do an assessment and asked them to reflect on their experience. So the results and the feedback, when we analyzed, what came up mainly is lack of preparation. So when the ninth one, if you see, having too many lessons to teach, which also means there is you have to do a lot of preparations in terms of too many lessons. So if there is extra duties because there is a teacher is absent, then having too many lessons to teach, modifying lessons for special needs students. I don't know if you get special needs students in your own college, but I do get them. Like when I'm teaching, I do get students who have issues like dyslexia, where they probably require more support and more interaction with them. What I do is when I get a student, I mean, they are nursing students, but still, when I get a student with dyslexia, I would meet them separately before, before the college, and then make. We also have something called as student support service, where they'll be referred. Psychologist will do the assessment, and we will actually put full list of things that can be used as support for students. So I would go through those lists and take few things that is essential for that particular clinical placement. That is when they come on placement in hospital. We need to know that whether they can actually meet patients' needs properly. Also, can they actually learn properly? One of the examples I can give you is there was one student. He kept asking me, "What time is lunch?" And I said, 12:30. And he looked up and down and he looked at the watch and he did not understand what I meant by 12:30. Because of dyslexia, one of the things that had affected him is not knowing how to actually read time. So I needed to know that, because when you're with people, if somebody is telling you come at 12:30, you need to know what is 12:30. Like the fellow did not know what 12:30 meant. So I had to actually show him the clock and say, when your watch shows, the two needles from here at 12 and 6, that is 12:30. And that is, it is like you have to modify the way you teach based on their needs. That is just one example. I'm sure you have students whom you see when they write the assignment, there's a lot of spelling mistakes. There is grammar is fine, but at the same time, there is a lot of spelling mistakes, and you see that. And that is an indication that there is something can be an issue with their learning needs. And when you have such students, it is a lot of stress for you to prepare extra. So then is the seventh top stressors is having too much lesson preparation and lack of preparation. As I said earlier, lack of preparation is the main stress that I find, especially for new teachers. Anyone who is new going to the class. I remember when I was doing my nursing, there was one teacher. He was very young, and when we were young as well, and he was very young, and he came 3 times to the class and went back because it like there was so much of anxiety. I would have done the same thing. The first day I faced the class, I would have felt, oh my God, the students are going to ask me so many questions, and I needed to prepare for everything. And there are some students who used to come prepared with questions. So it is important that we have to, prepare well for the classes, and that can be one of the stressors for teachers. Then is addressing parent or guardian concerns. I'm very sure you all have come across this. Even in nursing college, I have come across this. And most of our students used to come from Kerala. I worked in Mangalore, and most of our students used to come from Kerala. And when I was the class coordinator, they used to just come and ask, "Madam, how is my son?" And you need to think, out of 80 students, who is their son? First thing is that. And then addressing their concerns. They are coming from faraway places, and you need to spend that time with them and provide them that time and space. And that can be a stressor. There could be some concerns that you probably won't be able to answer. Then is maintaining classroom discipline. I think one of you already mentioned this. Maintaining classroom discipline can be very, very difficult. Sometimes the students can be challenging. We find that here anyway. I have this experience. This was my first experience of teaching in University of Dublin Trinity College. And in my first class, I did not know that students actually get up and go, if they have something to do. Like, for example, here there is a thing that it's all self-directed learning, and it's about you taking responsibility for your learning. So if you think attending a classroom session, you can you can learn in by reading something, then you don't really have to attend the classroom session. So in my first class, there was one of these student. He just got up and left the class, and I thought he'll come back, but he never returned to the class. And that I felt, what type of discipline is this? But again, having that understanding that there is different types of students and different types of learning. Therefore, the maintaining classroom discipline is a stressor, but I think we can cope with it if we just step back and say, oh, I was a student at one time. And and then therefore it is difficult, but putting ourselves in their shoes and sometimes trying to learn. One of the other things I should say here is there are students, students have life outside the classroom as well. Therefore, sometimes I find students coming and not showing any interest. So when I sit with them and personally explore, you realize that students actually, some of our students are parents, so they have children at home, and the child could be sick. They are dealing with so many things. They're dealing with their own family, they're dealing with classroom, they're dealing with doing placements, etc. So sometimes these disciplinary problems could be related to their life outside the classroom. So having an understanding of that also is useful. Then one of you mentioned this already, keeping up with changing requirements. Definitely at this time, it's been very, very difficult, especially for you all, having to suddenly change from classroom teaching to online teaching. I can entirely understand how difficult it must have been to change all of our style of teaching. Then the top three, one is too much grading and marking. As teachers, we are so much interested in knowing how well the student is learning. But and in order to know that, we do frequent internal assessments, frequent tests, etc. But imagine the burden of you having to grade everything. There are 100 students, and you are doing this test every second week, and you are under pressure, having to go through all 100 question papers and mark them and grade them. And that is of stress.
Yeah,
Then
madam.
the second top stressor is being held responsible for students' achievement. I'm very sure every year, end of the year, you get this. Not you get this. Some of us experience this. That if one or two students fail, it'll be like, oh, that's the responsibility of teacher. That teacher should have made sure that everybody passes in the class. But is it your responsibility? If the student is not achieving, you're not responsible. But being held responsible for students' achievement can be stressful. Then is having too much administrative jobs. I'm not sure how it works in India, but I've heard that teachers can be sent for election duties or things like something that is not related to teaching, and that can be too much of administrative work. And if you're giving handouts, you have to print them. if you're grading, etc. There is lot of things that you do which is not just about teaching, and that can be stressful for teachers. Therefore, these were the top 10 stressors, and you have already told me some of these, and I can say that you all can relate these stressors to you. Anything anyone want to share? Anything to contribute?
It will be
Kumar, yes.
it will be problem in rural areas now, madam. Since we are teaching in rural areas, if you want to take the online classes, means it will be problem only, madam. Parents will not cope up with that, madam. Why? Because they will be having some issues regarding to money, madam. Because we
Definitely.
can't contribute money toward, we can't fund for taking new mobile phones like that, madam. Android
Yes.
phones, because it will be
Yes.
costly now, madam.
Yes.
It
I know
depends
we
upon.
have moved on to new type of learning, but
Yeah,
we haven't. I mean, I think, see, with pandemic, the whole world didn't have time to prepare.
yeah,
Everything
madam.
was unexpected. Everything
Yeah.
was like so stressful for everyone, and it was. I can completely understand how difficult it is to fund for a mobile phone
Yeah,
for
madam.
a learning when they're barely able to send their child to school. It
Yes, madam.
is very, very difficult, and
And
that
even
can be stressful for everyone.
since the rural area is based on agrarian economy, no, madam.
Yes.
So parents are illiterate and they won't afford to much to buy new Android phones, madam.
And how did you cope with it?
So we started offline itself, madam, in the month of Jan.
Oh, really? Okay. So you mean you're going to school already?
Yeah, madam. But
Okay.
during last lockdown, we shut down, madam, the schools.
Okay.
Then again, we used to start from Monday, offline classes itself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can I
madam.
say something? That is the problem even in Ireland. Ireland
Oh,
is a developed country, but there are rural areas. It is
yeah.
not the affordability of buying a mobile phone, but the
Hmm.
network issue is a problem. Of course, the affordability is there. They can buy a mobile phone. But when
Yes.
I see children using mobile phone, I get palpitation because think about a small, handheld mobile phone is trying to educate somebody where we had such a big blackboard in the classroom when we were kids.
Mhm.
It is difficult.
Yes,
I
madam.
can completely relate to that.
And even there will be technological issues, madam, network issues in the
Yes,
rural areas.
yes, and that you would consider as one of the biggest stressor.
Yes, madam. And even
Okay,
parents will
okay.
also be complaining about that.
Yes, yeah. It's natural, isn't it? Like if you think about it, it's natural. When there isn't much money, there isn't, much job happening, and
Yes.
there is so much happening, and yet they want to teach their children, which is a
Yes.
good thinking, and they don't have the facility.
Yes, madam. Surely.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone else? Anything to share, please? Okay, so we'll move
certain
on. Sorry, yeah, Suja, go on.
certain factors sometimes which takes away our freedom to teach. For example, you have the fixed curriculum and so on. You cannot move out of it, wherein you have scope for teaching more than what you actually have within that syllabus, and you have to finish it within a stipulated period of time. You have to assess, and this continuous comprehensive evaluation system and so on. So the teaching methodology itself is undergoing changes.
And how do you think we can improve that?
I think, like, we need to be given some kind of a freedom to teach and to evaluate.
Can I share what we do here? see that there, like everything is not based on exam here. The evaluation is not based on exam. Mainly the evaluation methods that we use here is assignments, and these assignments are not like just copied from book to a paper. It has to be well searched articles, etc., especially in the third level institutions. Students are in college and they're expected to write assignments from learning from different articles, learning from different colleges, but then they're using their own thinking and writing capacity to write down on a particular topic and continuously reflect on it. So that is the method that we're using here. And when we evaluate, especially in the I'm teaching nursing students. So when nursing students come to the hospital and when we are teaching them certain things, we use something called as tripartite partite evaluation. That means there'll be 3 people involved in evaluating, not just one. It's the student himself or herself will evaluate first to say, okay, this is what I have done. They'll write a reflective piece. For example, there is an incident, a patient falls, and then we tell them, okay, think about this incident and reflect and say, how did you feel? What did you do? What can you do better if something similar happens, or how can you prevent this happening in future? So when they write on that, we would ask the student to give a grade by themselves by saying, okay, what do you think? How much you have scored? So they'll say whatever, okay, 70%. Then there is a person who is evaluating in the clinical area, in the hospital, and that person will give a grade going through the whole thing. And then there's a lecturer in college, even that lecturer will give a grade. So there are 3 different way of evaluating one assignment, and that's how we come as comprehensive evaluation. It's not based on exams are not used much. If there are 6 subjects, we probably have exams for 2 or 3. Not all subjects are taught based on exams. Again, as you said, exactly, you should have the freedom to teach something beyond your syllabus. But at the same time, that should be relevant to the student curriculum. And also evaluation, yes, comprehensive continuous evaluation is required, but what method that you need to use, I think something should be looked at rather than focusing only on the exam type of evaluation.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, so we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so what we spoke about so far is all about time management, because we did say, okay, there is a lot of stressors, but these stressors can be managed. Some of these stressors can be managed if we have good time management. So time management is considered as equal to stress management. When there is poor time management, that affects our self-esteem, increases stress, and puts more pressure on those around us in and out of work. Some of you said, not reaching the college on time. That is stressful. That's because I have missed the bus. I have not been able to get up early in the morning. I had a lot of work to do at home, and yet I had to prepare for the class. So there is a lot of time management aspects. The aim of time management is to free yourself of time pressure so that you can live and work more rewardingly. So in this, what we'll look at is, just look at this list of things and see, does any of this make sense to you? When you think of time management, do any of the following sound familiar? When you are, doing multitasking is one of the things one of you said. So when you're multitasking, do you feel like you're on a treadmill, continuously running and you don't have the stop button? Do you feel that you're continuously doing things and there is not, there is no stopping? And does it feel familiar when I say you feel angry about your workload? You just want to throw everything and just go home. Do you work late? That is till 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock night. Yes, I can see some of the faces nodding. Taking work home. Again, I'm very sure all of you bring all your assignments or exam papers home and sit
Sure.
and grade them at night.
Yeah, madam.
Yes. Catching up over the weekend. Weekend is for you. Now your job finishes on Friday evening or Saturday, whatever time, and then the Sunday is for you. But you still do things on Sunday. When your children go to bed, you say, "Oh my God, I have a class tomorrow. Let me sit and prepare for tomorrow's class." You
Surely,
never
madam.
get a lunch break. I can put my hand up. I never get a lunch break. I skip that and it's not good, but that's how, it is. Sometimes when you're doing too many things, you just take one sandwich and that's your lunch. That's it. Feeling overwhelmed by work. You're doing so much, you just feel so stressed.
Whelmed by.
You just think, oh my God, this is not something that I can deal with. Feeling that work is out of proportion in your life. Sometimes work takes all our life. You're working till I don't know whatever age you retire, and then there is no work. And all till then, we have worked so much. We have worked. We have completely forgotten that we have a family. We do a little bit with the family, but work takes precedence over everything. So, does any of this sound familiar?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure it does, you know. And we all know that, these are something that we are doing regularly. So what do we do with this? So when you feel that way, you have to remember, and all of us have to remember, time is equal to life. Therefore, wasting our own time is like wasting our life. Or when you say that, or master your time and master your life. So when we are doing multitasking, first thing to think about is what is the best use of my time right now. See, I can do multitasking even now, but for me at the moment, the best use of my time is to focusing just on this session. So we can use different techniques to do this. Lakin is an American author actually on personal time management. He has written few books. He's an author. So he talks about ABC, something you probably are doing already, as having a list of a must do, should do, and nice to do. A must do, when you say there's high priority with close deadlines. Tomorrow is the report that you have to give. You have to do it. Should do is that is something that you can probably do tomorrow. That has the medium priority. Nice to do is like low priority. So when you know that what are the different tasks you have, and you have divided them into must do, should do, and nice to, then you can ask these three questions. Must it be done at all? If not, drop it. Must it be done by me? If you don't have to do it, then delegate it. Must it be done right now? If it doesn't have to be done right now, just put it in the diary for tomorrow or next week, whenever it is suitable. So when you're time managing, think about dividing all tasks into must do, should do, nice to do, and see whether you have to do it now. If not, drop it. Can it be done by someone else? Delegate it. Or if it doesn't have to be done right now, then put it in the diary. So that's how we can plan our time. There are 6 rules he talks about for time management. It includes listing goals and setting priorities, making a daily to-do list. I have a diary, then it's usually full, but there's a diary which tells me what I am supposed to do every day. And and then I set priorities. When I check my emails in the morning, minimum 25 to 30 emails every day I'll have, but I won't respond to that immediately. I'll start with a task, must do. The ones that I have to respond immediately, I'll do, and rest of them I'll just consider as flagged for follow up, and I'll do it later. So start with a task and not C task. Then ask this question: what is the best use of my time right now? Right now, how can I use my time in a useful way? Handle each piece of paper only once. If you have must do, nice to do, should do once, just do anything only once. Do it now. Don't postpone. If there's anything that you need to do it now. Don't postpone. These are the 6 rules that he talks about. So again, looking at this quadrant, it tells us what is urgent versus important. There are certain things that is urgent. For example, if you look at the first quadrant, it is urgent and important. So when it is urgent and important, that you should do now. It is quadrant of necessity. For example, if there's an emergency, you're not going to sit and listen to the webinar. You're going to right away, go and attend that. That is do now. And if there are project meetings, if there are last minute demands, if there are deadline driven projects, all those things have to be considered as urgent and important. Then in the second quadrant, if you see, there are things that are not urgent but important. So that is like, it's a quadrant of quality. For example, personal care. You need to get a haircut. It is urgent, but is it important? Sometimes it is important. Like if I'm doing a webinar today and if I'm not having, my hair properly, for my own self-esteem and self-confidence, it is important. Therefore, is it urgent but important? Then you need to, think about that as a quality. Working towards goal, relationship building, true recreation. Recreation is very important. We can't just postpone saying, I'll visit this temple some other day. Or, I'm not saying going to temple is recreation, but for some, it gives the peace of mind. Or, going to a movie, I'll do this some other day. No, if it is important, but not urgent, you can do it. You can plan to do it. There are things urgent, but not important. Like there are like phone calls, emails, reports, meetings, and some, people's minor demands are urgent, but not important. So you can avoid them. That's why that quadrant is called as quadrant of deception. Then we have certain things like it is not urgent and not important. I'm not minimizing any of those things. Like for social media, for some, it is important, but is it important in our work life? During our work life, we can avoid these things like social media, web browsing. Obviously, I don't think you can watch Netflix or Amazon, on in college, but at home, if you're binge watching, like I have done that when the what is that called, as Family Man, I think there was a web series. When it came, I sat all night and watched, I think 6 or 7 episodes all at once. But that was on my annual leave. I was off that day anyway, so I could do that. So it is about knowing what is urgent, what is important, and how do we actually divide our tasks based on that. I see that I only have half an hour more. I'm going to go to next one. So we have looked at different types of stress, different way of, the knowing how to assess our own stress, and also what are the top 10 stresses for teachers, and about time management and how that can help us in reducing stress. So what do we do when we are stressed? What do you do when you're stressed? Anyone to share? What do you do? All of us are stressed.
Try to remain silent for some period of time.
Okay, try to be silent for some time. Yes. Anyone? How do you cope with when there is so many multitasking you're doing and dealing with deadlines? Start shouting. Sorry, Shankari.
Go for a bike ride, ma'am.
Don't react.
Very good.
Don't react
Yes.
suddenly. Don't react suddenly.
Don't react suddenly. That's very nice. Yes. That is when you're angry, don't react. Yes, suddenly. Okay. We'll look at some of those aspects, what literature says and what can be done. First thing I would say is self-care. When we are stressed, you are important. You are the person who is able to manage, everything else. For example, I think I saw an ad, is it by Zandu Balm or Vicks, I don't know, where they show a lady in the family is managing everything, and when she becomes sick, the whole family is affected. Same way, you are the teacher, and when teacher is if the teacher is irritated or teacher is not feeling good, then whole class can have an impact of that. Therefore, self-care is important. This self-care is talks all about life, and work balance. Like, you need to have self-care in terms of physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual, personal, and professional. It looks like preaching, but I think it is important for us to know that even eating at the right time, eating healthy, exercising, taking time off, things like getting some nice massage or acupuncture, taking a walk, etc., and also turning off your mobile phone for some time is self-care. It sounds awful, but that's considered as self-care. Psychological wise, having a self-awareness, things like doing aromatherapy or going to music concerts or drawing or painting. Think about your positive qualities. Joining a support group. If you're not feeling good about something, join a few friends together who have some similar issues, and talk about it, and have a focus directed towards something else. Could be it's emotional as well. Having a pet can be very good. If you like a cat or a dog or whatever, if you're having a pet, that gives that emotional support. Spiritual, I did say earlier about going to temple or churches or any spiritual places, that can be very insightful. Listening to music, meditating. Personal wise, thinking about what do you want in life. Is it all about retirement? Is it all about working till retirement? And then what do you do after retirement? Thinking about that and also is important. Professionally, how do you want to go about? Is it all about career? Is it all about going from one stage to another, or is there more about just providing positive message to the society? So that is more about self-care. So it is you who is important. So when you do self-care, it is about self-love. Focus on yourself. Take care of your body. Be mindful of your inner voice, because your body tells you if something is going wrong. Your body tells you. The one that is very favorite of me is drop toxic people. That is, if you think someone is just bothering you of no use, other than just giving you some irritation, drop those toxic people. Remove negative comparison. There is no need for you to compare yourself to someone else who is doing well. I always compare myself to a homeless person, and I always say, thank God I have a house to live, I have food to eat, I have clothes to put on, I have a salary coming. A homeless person does not have any of those. So remove negative
Sure.
comparison. Compare yourself with someone who is less has less opportunities in life than yourself. Thank yourself, because you are important. For me, I always say this: you are the important person in your life, and build positive affirmations. Loving yourself is important, because if you are not in good shape, everyone around you will not be in good shape. So self-love. And then this is my way of doing things, that is, change your focus. When you're stressed, don't only think about stress. Change your focus. For example, when something breaks, you by mistake you drop a cup and it breaks, what do you focus on? Anyone? I usually focus on the person rather than the broken cup. The person who has broken cup, I would ask that person, are you okay? Because cup is broken, you can't rejoin the cup. But the person who has broken the cup actually is feeling that guilt, and feeling sadness for having broken something. So change your focus. that then your stress will also, go down. You don't look at the problem, you look at the person. So change your focus. So when we have stress, first thing is to find support. Always remember you're not alone, because stress is there in everyone's life. Everyone goes through one or the other type of stress, so you're not alone. This is the quote I always like. You probably have seen one of these cartoon characters as Winnie the Pooh. What is the bravest thing you ever said? And the Pooh says, help. That is, it takes so much courage to ask for help. When you're stressed, you don't want to go and ask someone, saying that, oh my God, I'm feeling so sad. I know I need somebody's help. You don't want to say that. But that is what we should all develop, asking for help. I don't know the structure in your own colleges, but here there is support service for staff as well. So if there is someone in need of support, psychological support, they can ring the confidential number. So nobody knows who is ringing them. Whoever is ringing does not know who they're talking to. They know they're a psychologist, and and someone who is providing support, or a counselor. So it's a confidential telephone line. And furthermore, if they want more support, then they will direct them to appropriate people. So the first thing is to look for help if there is a need. So find support. Then is fitness. One of you spoke about cycling. Yes, there are different ways of doing fitness. What I find is doing fitness or things like yoga on my own is boring. And then I get demotivated. I do it for 15 days and I think, oh my God, I can't do this. So I think having group fitness is one of the best things, because you have your friend to motivate you, saying that, oh, come on, it's 8 o'clock, get up, we'll go for a walk. So have this group fitness, or walking group, cycling group, yoga group. So they're all into fitness, and fitness is something that stimulates the hormones, and all these exercises makes your mind fresh. I don't have to talk about how it works, but I just want to say there are different ways that we can cope by focusing into different other things, rather than focusing only on the problem that we're going through. Problems will not go on its own. You all know that. Problems needs rational thinking and solution focused interventions. So problems will not go, but how can we change our reaction to problems is important. What else can we do? There are events and entertainment to change our focus. You can watch television. I'm not saying watch what is it called as Kannada serials or Hindi serials for from, I used to do that 6:30 to 11:30. I'm not doing that. That is not changing our focus. But it is just watch some television or concerts, go to museums, musicals, zoos, attraction, visiting spiritual places. Definitely, people have this spirituality that helps them heal their pain or stress. So events and entertainment can be a source of directing our focus. Then learn a new skill. I've actually put pictures which does not require you to go and spend money. I'm sure some of you know how to weave flowers, to make a flower garland. And if you don't know, learn that skill. It's useful and it's very nice. The smell of flower gives you that feeling of relaxation. Then the other picture that I've just put up there is something that we do in Mangalore, is using the coconut leaves to weave them and make what is it called as like a mat. So again, it's a skill. It's a skill that many of us have forgotten, and something that can be learned. Other things, like I would not tell you to go and learn guitar, but there are musical instruments you probably want to learn. A new language, a sewing. I think there's something that happened in my life, and then I just wanted to focus. And there was one colleague of mine who was 65 years old, and she just said, Shobha, come, we'll go and join the sewing class. So I bought a machine and I went and learned to, stitch. It has nothing to do with my life. I haven't used it since, But I just went and spent that 10 days. And those 10 days, I think, was very important for me to focus my mind into doing something else and not focusing on the problem that was going in my life. So it is important for us to, think about learning a new skill. Driving is a skill, very essential and can be, very useful, but it is something that we can do. I just have for the new generations, the things like Photoshop. Even with your own mobile phones or computers, you can still learn new skills. Learning a new language is very good. It's useful as well. So focusing our way of thinking into something else can be beneficial in managing stress. It's not only about me. What about my colleagues? It's about, I've almost spoken now about self, taking care of oneself. But what about my colleagues? It's very important to know if any of your colleagues are struggling. But especially with COVID, with online teaching, you haven't met your colleagues very often. So you don't know what's going on in their life unless and until they take a phone and tell you, oh my God, this is what is happening. Many of us have lost, family and friends because of COVID. Many of us are struggling with salary and jobs and stuff like that. But we don't know how everybody is coping with it. So we do miss the cues. We usually pick up when they're inside the office or when we are inside in the college. So there are certain things you look for as red flags. Look at when you're ringing somebody, when you're talking to somebody, see if there is long sigh. That is, if they say, if you ask how are you, they'll be like, okay, parvagilla, chanagidini. If they say like that, look for those signs, because sighing can be the body's way of regulating breathing during times of stress. And that is something, it gives you subconscious message saying that, no, she says she's well, but she's not. It's verbally, we try to say, I'm okay. I think the next one says that when you say, especially in here, when anybody asks, how are you? I usually say, not too bad. But what does that mean? Or all right. What does that mean? None of us know whether I'm all right, whether it's good all right or bad all right. Or is it good when I say not too bad, or is it bad? So we hide our true feelings by just saying all right. And we don't feel comfortable sharing what's really going on. And that's obvious. There could be a staff, one of your colleagues saying, I'm just exhausted. It could be because of lack of sleep. It could be exhaustion. And it's always, sometimes it can be because of burnout. You're doing too many things. You can't get sleep, and you just feel exhausted in the morning. And that's how your body reacts to stress, by feeling tired, by feeling fatigued, by feeling demotivated. You may have colleagues who say continuously, oh my God, I forgot. I meant to bring that, but I forgot. I can't remember. And poor memory and lack of concentration also can be a sign that someone is struggling with their mental health. Somebody could be saying continuously, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I meant to do this. I'm so sorry. And saying sorry also is, they're becoming self-critical, and it can be a red flag that they're struggling as well. So there are many things you can look for. And one of the very easier one is withdrawing. You may have noticed that some of your colleagues may say, okay, I'll come to this meeting, and they don't turn up. Or, sometimes if it is a family meeting also, they don't turn on the camera or, what is that, voice as well. And that could be that they don't want to face anyone. That could be the reason, that could be a sign that they're withdrawing from others. So look for these signs in your colleagues. It's not just about you, it's about your colleague too, when we are managing stress. And what do we do with all this? If you think you're worried about someone's well-being, very simple tip is, if you have asked them once, how are you? And they said, all right, ask them again. Ask them again to say, are you okay? Is there anything I can do for you? and this gives them, a time and more thoughtful and deeper response to say how they're actually doing. So as they again, there are a lot of things that we can do for each other. It's looking after ourselves, looking after everyone for a better world, definitely. I do have one last video to show you. I hope I can do that. I'm just going to bring that up now.
There's all this pressure, you know.
No, stop.
And
Let me just bring that up now. I don't seem to bring it up. I'm not sure if there is any issue with that. Okay, I can share the link later with everyone. I'm not able to bring that up. What the video was all about, there's a lady with a nail in her head, and she's talking to somebody, her colleague. And the colleague keeps telling her that there's a nail in your head. And she says, don't look at my nail, don't look at the nail, because it's not about the nail. It's about how I feel at the moment. I feel awful. I feel I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to be on my own. I feel there's a constant aches in my head. So when you're talking to your friends, if you find there is something going on in their life, don't look at the problem, because I don't want to know what my problem is, but I want you to listen to me. I want you to listen to my conversation. It's not about the problem. It's about how you can be there for me is the main thing. That will be the thing that your colleague or friend would be looking at. So any questions, I'm happy to take. I can see Ravi Koba has raised his hand there. Anything that you want to ask?
Ravi sir, you have anything to be asked? So you unmute yourself and speak, sir. You're muted. Ravi sir, you want to say
Hello,
something?
sir, please go ahead.
Sir, Ravi sir, unmute ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ sir.
ಹಲೋ ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಇವಾಗ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಹಲೋ ಹಲೋ ಮೇಡಮ್.
Sir, ಮಾತಾಡಿ sir.
ಹಲೋ ಮೇಡಮ್.
Hello, sir. Go ahead.
ಹಲೋ 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 ಮೇಡಮ್.
Sir, we can hear you, sir.
ಹಲೋ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಓಕೆ. ಹಲೋ ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಮಾತಾಡಿ, ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಹಲೋ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಓಕೆ, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಮೇಡಮ್.
Okay, thank you. So do you have any question or do you want to share anything? Okay, I hope that was useful, and thank you very much once again for giving me the opportunity. It's indeed a very good interaction with you all, and I'm really overwhelmed by seeing so many people having to come together and do this. And I wish you all the best for future sessions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Srividya ma'am, you have muted yourself. You're not able to hear you.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Dear participants, if you have any queries, kindly get it clarified. Ma'am, Dr. Shobha Rani ma'am, your session was really wonderful, ma'am. I don't know how to express my gratitude to you. In spite of your busy schedule, you have spent a lot of time with us. We really didn't know how the time went. Like, it was a very interesting session, and really you have given much more, lot of information about how to manage stress, and it is very much required in our day-to-day life, because as we all know, something or the other daily we have some kind of stress, and yours Cohen's perceived stress scale was really good, and top 10 stressor for teachers, that really is very useful for all of us, ma'am. Definitely,
Surely.
we will try to follow as much as possible.
Surely,
We will
surely.
not just listen and forget it. And really, you are an asset, madam. I hope we'll be having with you every year with some session. It will really be useful for both our students and even for teacher fraternity. And time management, as you said, it is very important in our life. If we manage the time, I think so we can manage ourselves. And you have put it in a very good way, ma'am. Each one of us understood very well as to how we have to manage time. We are really extremely thankful to you, ma'am. Hope we'll be having you in many of our sessions. And now I request Nandini, Madam, HOD Department of Sociology, to propose vote of thanks. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Before that, I just want to congratulate Shobha. Shobha, it was excellent. I could hear very, very well prepared. And I'm very proud of you. Very proud of you. Thank you for accepting and doing the job. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Katyayani ma'am is my teacher.
Thank you, Katyayani ma'am, for joining us today. Thank you
Yes.
for this wonderful resource person also. Good afternoon, one and all. I would like to thank everyone on behalf of Government First Grade College, Bidadi, IQAC, NSS, and all the departments. I take this opportunity to extend vote of thanks. Firstly, I would like to thank our resource person, Dr. Shobha Rani ma'am, Practice Development Coordinator, National Forensic Mental Health, Ireland, Assistant Professor of University of Dublin, Trinity College, Ireland. Today's session on stress management, as what stress is and how to deal with it. And most of us can relate ourselves to this topic, because work is something which will make us work for both family as well as our outside work, especially stress management and other things related to stress for students as well as teachers. Work takes most of us our time, yes, definitely true. And how to manage our time. Thank you for this excellent presentation and for this excellent session. I would like to thank our principal, Professor Jagadamba ma'am, for her continuous support and motivation for organizing this workshop. I thank Dr. B.V. Katyayani ma'am from NIMANS for actually providing us this particular resource persons and giving us time. Time becomes very important, and I feel you are here. Thank you so much. I would like to thank our NAC coordinator, Radha ma'am, Radha Jia, Department of English, for being here. I would like to thank our NSS coordinator, Nalinakshi ma'am, librarian of our college. Ma'am, it is because of your coordination this program is being successful. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Nextly, I would like to thank Professor Shivshankari ma'am, Department of Commerce, our technical session coordinator. It is through her support that we are able to carry on this program through this particular platform. Thank you, Shivshankari ma'am.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so
I would
much.
like to thank our Srividya ma'am, Dr. Srividya ma'am from Department of Commerce, for welcoming and taking charge for today's particular session. I would like to thank all the teaching as well as non-teaching staff of GFGC Biddi. I thank all those who have helped us either directly or indirectly and helped us making this program successful. Finally, I take this privilege to thank all the delegate participants and our dear students without whose participation this program would have not been a complete program. Thank you, one and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you
you
all.
and have a good day. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye.
And I request all the participants to attend
Thank you,
the
madam.
session. We have wonderful resources each and every day. Dr. Katyani, thank you so much, ma'am. She, as is the teacher, so is the student, ma'am. Very nice. Both of your sessions were really awesome, ma'am. Thank you.
Such a wonderful teacher relationship, student teacher relationship.
Yes,
Madam has
ma'am.
come all the way to see you, ma'am. That's great.
Pretty and young also, ma'am. Very nice.
Katyani, ma'am, you have muted your audio, ma'am. We're not able to hear you.
Okay. To say bye to Shobha, and I'm really proud of her. The way she has prepared and the examples what he gave, sitting in Ireland and thinking about teachers in India. That election duty, I was really astonished. The example she gave, it is very valid, but it was very good. And the way the flow of your language and the way you took that time management and activities what you mentioned, it is really good, worth listening. Thank you, Shobha. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
We'll meet somewhere tomorrow.
Meet you tomorrow. Sure. See you. Bye.
Okay.
Thank
Oh,
you.
bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Excellent session. Good.
Yes.
Bye. Nice. Super session, Shivu.